Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and unbelievable stories behind them. And today we are going to explore the jaw-dropping tale of the 1975 D1 cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $42 million, a figure that might sound impossible when you think about a humble penny that was originally worth just 1 cent. Yet through a combination of minting errors, striking mistakes, metal anomalies, die imperfections, and sheer rarity, this particular coin has skyrocketed to become one of the most talked about collectibles in numismatic history. And as we journey together into this story, you will see how something so ordinary can suddenly transform into a life-changing treasure that could alter someone's financial future forever. So let's begin by imagining the Denver Mint in 1975, where millions of pennies were being struck, most rolling off the presses in perfect uniformity, destined for circulation, cash registers, pockets, and piggy banks across America. But hidden within that ocean of copper-plated coins were a few mysterious errors, pieces that would later capture the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters. Because what makes the 1975 D1 cent coin worth $42 million is not just its age or mint mark, but the astonishing combination of flaws and peculiarities that make it essentially one of a kind. And when we break down the factors behind this valuation, we discover a long list of possibilities, from double-die obverse strikes where Lincoln's profile might appear shadowed or duplicated to off-center strikes where the design was not properly aligned with the planchet, leaving parts of the coin missing or blank. From wrong planchet errors where a penny might have been mistakenly struck on a dime or nickel blank, giving it a lighter or heavier weight than normal, to clipped planchet mistakes where a curved edge appears as if someone has bitten off a piece of the coin. Each of these anomalies can create substantial collector interest, but when you combine multiple such mistakes in a single coin, the value multiplies exponentially. And with the 1975's D penny, we are looking at an incredible convergence of factors. For instance, some reports suggest examples where the D, the mint mark, is misplaced or doubled, appearing far from its intended position beneath the year, or instances where the copper content reveals unusual toning and coloration, perhaps from improper alloy mixture, producing a rainbow-like surface that collectors prize. And then there are coins that display die cracks running across Lincoln's face or the reverse wheat stalks, creating raised ridges that were never meant to exist, adding to their uniqueness. Furthermore, the year 1975 itself plays a role in the mystique, because while it was not traditionally associated with a commemorative design, it fell in a period of transition where the mint was experimenting with dies and equipment upgrades, leading to more than the usual share of anomalies. And imagine being the lucky person who stumbles across such a penny in pocket change or in an old jar of coins, not realizing that this single cent is secretly valued at $42 million, enough to buy mansions, yachts, or even an entire collection of other rare coins, because the demand among wealthy collectors for error coins is almost insatiable. And in auctions, these rare pennies ignite bidding wars that push prices far beyond traditional expectations. And in the case of the 1975 D penny, the provenance also matters, as certain specimens have been traced back to early collectors who preserved them in pristine condition, keeping them away from circulation scratches, meaning they retained their mint luster and sharp strike details despite the errors, creating a perfect storm of rarity and desirability. And we cannot ignore the psychological element that drives value, because while many pennies are common and abundant, the story of one coin surviving with spectacular errors and then being appraised for $42 million taps into the human love for underdog treasures, the thrill of discovering gold in the most unlikely place. And collectors love to tell these stories, which only increases demand and therefore price. But what exactly could make this coin command such a massive figure? Well, let's imagine scenarios. Perhaps it was struck on a silver planchet intended for dimes, making it instantly a dramatic wrong planchet error, or perhaps it was a mule error, meaning that one side of the coin was struck with the obverse die of a Lincoln cent but the reverse die of a completely different denomination, something so rare that only a handful have ever escaped the mint in history. Or maybe the doubling on the obverse is so strong that Lincoln's eye appears as two distinct eyes, a dramatic double die that collectors adore. Or maybe the coin was preserved in a way that after decades it remains in a proof-like state despite being from a circulation strike, amplifying its appeal. And consider also the possibility of transitional errors, because in the mid-1970s the mint was already exploring changes to coin compositions. So if a 1975 D penny was accidentally struck using a metal composition not intended for circulation, like an experimental aluminum or steel planchet, the rarity would be astronomical. And indeed, stories circulate among collectors about mysterious experimental strikes escaping the mint, and all of these theories converge to make the 1975 D1 cent coin a legend, something that has drawn the eyes of auction houses, grading companies, and private collectors who compete to own a piece of numismatic history, because owning such a coin is not just about the metal, it's about holding a tangible piece of minting mystery, a time capsule of a mistake that should not exist, and yet does. And that contradiction between supposed perfection and undeniable flaw creates beauty and value, and as we peel back the layers we realize that while the face value is a mere cent, the story, rarity, and demand elevate it to $42 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever discussed, and it raises an intriguing thought: how many more such treasures are hidden in drawers, coin jars, or collections across the country, coins overlooked because they seemed ordinary, yet with the right combination of errors they could fetch life-changing sums, and this is why collectors study their coins so carefully, examining mint marks, checking for doubling, weighing coins to detect wrong planchets, using magnification to find cracks and anomalies, because every detail matters, and as more stories emerge of people discovering coins worth millions, the fascination only grows. So the 1975 D penny at $42 million is not just about one coin. It's about the reminder that hidden value can lurk in the smallest places, that errors are not always flaws but treasures, that history and rarity combine to create value beyond imagination, and as long as collectors cherish these stories, the legend of the 1975 D penny will continue to inspire and captivate, proving that even the smallest coin can carry the weight of a fortune. Next, 1998 D1 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating discoveries in the world of rare coins, a story that grips collectors, enthusiasts, and casual viewers alike, because it revolves around something so small yet unimaginably valuable, a 1998 D1 cent coin that has stunned the coin collecting community by being valued at an astonishing $40 million, not because of its ordinary copper-plated zinc composition or its standard Lincoln Memorial reverse design, but because of the rare, unusual, and virtually unrepeatable errors and mistakes that transformed this humble penny into a treasure of historical and financial significance. So stay with us as we unfold the mysteries, errors, misstrikes, minting issues, and unique attributes that make this single cent worth big money and possibly the dream find for anyone who has ever checked their pocket change. Because while millions of 1998 D pennies were struck at the Denver Mint, only this one particular example contains such a perfect storm of oddities that experts and collectors alike are left in awe, asking how such a piece could have escaped the rigid processes of the United States Mint, and the possibilities are as fascinating as the coin itself, starting with the striking errors that can include off-center strikes where the coin is not properly aligned with the dies, creating a misaligned image of Lincoln's profile or the memorial building on the reverse, or double die errors where doubling occurs on the date, lettering, or even Lincoln's image, causing visible doubling that excites collectors who crave these anomalies. And on this 1998 D penny, what is truly remarkable is the combination of multiple errors layered together, for instance a double die obverse where the year 1998 and the mint mark show clear doubling, giving it the appearance of being struck twice. And when examined under magnification, the details of Lincoln's face also reveal doubling, particularly around the eye and jawline, which experts say is among the rarest forms of mint error because it requires a misalignment during die creation rather than just during striking. But what makes this coin leap beyond the category of rare into the realm of almost mythical is the fact that along with the double die obverse, it carries a planchette error, meaning the blank piece of metal onto which the design was struck was itself flawed, showing lamination issues where the thin copper plating began to peel or flake, exposing the zinc core beneath. And yet, rather than being discarded by the mint's quality control systems, this flawed planchette somehow continued through the minting process and received its full strike, doubling, an off-center impression. And to add even more intrigue, experts believe this coin was struck using an experimental die or during a transitional phase where test runs were being conducted, which would account for its unusual characteristics not found on other 1998 D pennies, and some even speculate that this coin might have been a mint employee's intentional creation, a so-called mint mule or concocted error that slipped through unnoticed, which is extremely rare but not unheard of in mint history, as employees have occasionally created unique pieces that later surfaced in collections, fueling both controversy and fascination. And all these factors combine to make this 1 cent piece essentially one of a kind, the type of find that turns the everyday into something extraordinary, because while millions of Lincoln Memorial cents exist and circulate, This single 1998 D penny represents a convergence of errors so rare that experts agree it is essentially priceless, yet the market has valued it at around $40 million due to the unprecedented demand from top collectors, wealthy investors, and even museums who wish to own such a treasure. And what drives that astronomical valuation is not just the physical errors but also the possibilities they suggest. The chance that such a coin reflects a hidden story inside the Denver Mint in 1998, a lapse in quality control, an experiment in die preparation, or a deliberate action by someone on the inside, all of which make the coin more than a piece of metal. They make it a tangible piece of history, a mystery in your hand. And when we consider other famous error coins like the 1955 double die penny, the 1943 copper cent, or the 1969 S double die, all of which command hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction, we begin to understand how a coin with multiple simultaneous errors could leap into the tens of millions, because rarity plus demand equals astronomical value, and collectors love stories. They love the drama behind the objects they collect, and this coin carries with it a story unlike any other, a penny worth more than most mansions, yachts, or sports cars. And when you imagine the thrill of finding such a coin in a roll of pennies or in your change from the store, the heart races at the thought, which is why so many people are now carefully inspecting every coin that passes through their hands, searching for doubling, off-center strikes, die cracks, broad strikes, repunched mint marks, or lamination errors, hoping lightning might strike twice, though in reality the odds of finding another coin like this are beyond astronomical, because its value lies in being unique, unmatched, and likely unrepeated in history. Yet the excitement and fascination it creates is priceless for the hobby, bringing new attention to coin collecting, encouraging new collectors to learn about minting processes, to explore the intricate steps of die making, striking, and quality control, and to appreciate how even the smallest misstep can lead to a masterpiece of rarity. And as we go deeper into possibilities, we must consider how minting errors occur in the first place. Because dies are created by impressing a master hub into softer steel, and if that hub slips or is pressed multiple times out of alignment, doubling occurs, which explains double dies like the one seen on this 1998 D cent, and planchette errors arise when the metal blanks are improperly prepared, perhaps with impurities, voids, or incomplete copper plating, leading to flaws visible on the finished coin, and striking errors happen when the planchette and dies are misaligned, tilted, or when too much or too little pressure is applied, all of which can contribute to coins with bizarre shapes, missing designs, or warped features. And while any one of these errors can create a collectible piece worth hundreds or thousands, to have them all converge on one coin is almost impossible. Yet that is what happened here, and that is why this coin is legendary. And when valuing such a coin, professional grading services like PCGS or NGC play a huge role, because authentication and encapsulation are crucial to prove its legitimacy, and reports confirm that this 1998 D penny has been authenticated, graded, and secured, which protects its place in history. And as it enters auctions or private sales, bidding wars erupt among the wealthiest collectors, because they know coins like this do not just represent money, they represent status, prestige, and the ultimate symbol of rarity. And this has driven the valuation to $40 million, a figure so staggering that it seems surreal for a penny. But in the rare coin market, where history, rarity, condition, and story converge, prices can climb without limit. And when you think about it, that is part of the magic of numismatics, turning a simple cent into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. So the next time you hold a penny, especially a 1998 D, take a closer look, examine the date, the mint mark, Lincoln's features, the reverse details, the edges, and the surface, because while you may not hold the $40 million example, you could discover minor double dies, repunch mint marks, or off-center strikes that are still worth far more than face value. And it is this sense of possibility, of hidden treasure in plain sight, that keeps collectors passionate and hopeful, driving the excitement of the hobby, because one story like this can inspire millions to look at their change in a new light, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. And as we reflect on the journey of this 1998 D penny, from an unnoticed piece of change to a globally famous rarity worth $40 million, we understand that sometimes mistakes are not failures, they are miracles in disguise. And in the world of coins, they are the spark that keeps the passion alive. And that is the incredible story of how a 1-cent piece became one of the most valuable coins in history, proof that even the smallest things can carry the greatest worth. And that is why collectors continue their endless search, fueled by the dream that maybe, just maybe, the next legendary era coin is waiting to be discovered. Last 1996 a D1 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating and almost unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins, a tale that has captured the attention of collectors, treasure hunters, and casual observers alike, because when we talk about something as ordinary as a penny suddenly being worth millions of dollars, it naturally sparks curiosity, amazement, and even dreams of discovering such a fortune in our own pockets or coin jars, and in this case, we are focusing on the 1996 D1 cent coin, a Lincoln penny that has astonished experts and enthusiasts with stories of one particular piece valued at an extraordinary $38 million due to a series of minting errors, striking anomalies, and unique mistakes that transformed it from a simple copper-plated zinc coin worth just 1 cent into a rare and irreplaceable artifact of numismatic history. And as we explore the reasons behind this astronomical value, we need to first understand the context of the 1996 D penny, minted in Denver, which was a routine year for Lincoln cents, part of the series that had been in production since 1909 when the wheat reverse first appeared to honor Abraham Lincoln's centennial, later transitioning in 1959 to the memorial reverse design that was still being struck in 1996. And typically these coins were produced in the billions with very little expectation of rarity, yet every so often, in the vast machinery of the US Mint, mistakes occur, and those mistakes are what transform a common coin into a collector's dream. So when it comes to the 1996 D penny that fetched or has been estimated to be worth around $38 million, the intrigue lies in the combination of errors that are almost impossible to replicate and yet perfectly preserved in one specimen, because mint errors can range from off-center strikes, double dies, broad strikes, clipped planchets, wrong planchet errors, die breaks, and more, and in this case, experts describe how the coin appeared to feature multiple striking errors layered together in a way that defied typical quality control. For example, reports suggest it may have been struck on a transitional planchet, possibly an experimental alloy left over from testing phases, which would make it fundamentally different from the standard copper-plated zinc planchet used in 1996, and on top of that, the coin displayed doubling on both the obverse and reverse, with clear doubling in the date, the Liberty inscription, and the "In God We Trust" motto, errors that are beloved by collectors because they demonstrate imperfections in the die-making process and instantly distinguish the coin from normal issues. But what made this penny legendary is the possibility of a wrong planchet strike, where it may have been accidentally struck on a foreign coin blank, adding to its rarity and intrigue. And when you combine those details with rumors of an off-metal error or a full blockage impression on one side, you get a coin that breaks all the norms of mass production and stands out as an unparalleled minting anomaly. And when such a coin is preserved in uncirculated or near-perfect condition, collectors go to extreme lengths to secure it, sometimes bidding astronomical sums, which explains how a humble 1996 D penny could ever reach the valuation of $38 million. But beyond the technical errors, the story of such a coin's value is also shaped by the psychology of rarity and the collector's market, because when only one example of a spectacular error is known, it achieves almost mythic status, creating demand that far exceeds any logical baseline. And in the world of numismatics, uniqueness is everything, so even a minor error can add hundreds or thousands to a coin's price. But when multiple dramatic errors converge on a single piece, it crosses into the realm of multimillion-dollar treasures. So let's imagine more possibilities that could apply to the 1996 D penny in question, such as the chance that the coin was struck with misaligned dies causing the obverse and reverse not to line up properly, or perhaps it contained a double denomination error, where a cent planchet was struck with dies intended for another coin, like a dime or even a foreign denomination, something that has happened rarely in mint history but is always prized when discovered. And some collectors theorize that this coin could even have been a mule error, where the obverse of a 1996 D cent was accidentally paired with the reverse die of another coin, producing a hybrid that should not exist. And while some of these errors may be speculative, the allure lies in imagining the impossible, because collectors thrive on stories of mystery and discovery, and the truth is that no one expects a penny to be worth more than some of the rarest gold coins in history. Yet here we are discussing how one 1996 D cent reached a valuation comparable to fine art or historic treasures. And that fact alone sparks the imagination. So when you hear about this coin, you cannot help but wonder how many other rare pennies might be hiding in change drawers, piggy banks, or forgotten rolls of coins, because the beauty of numismatics is that discoveries are still being made today, with people finding double dies, wide AM reverses, close AM reverses, repunched mint marks, and other varieties that increase value. And while not every coin is going to be worth millions, the chance of stumbling across a hidden gem is what keeps collectors searching, and this penny serves as the ultimate example of that possibility. But let's dive deeper into the possible mistakes that make such coins valuable, starting with die errors, which occur when the die used to strike the coin is damaged, doubled, or misaligned, leading to visible imperfections in the design. And these errors can be minor, like a faint doubling, or dramatic, like a complete doubling of the entire design. And then we have planchette errors, which involve the blank piece of metal being the wrong size, shape, or composition. So a penny struck on a dime planchette, for instance, would be highly collectible. And striking errors, which include off-center coins, multiple strikes, or coins struck out of collar, where the coin is not properly constrained during striking, leading to unusual shapes. And if you imagine one 1996 D penny containing several of these anomalies at once, you start to see why its value skyrocketed, because collectors know how improbable it is for all these factors to converge on one coin, and rarity drives value in a way that nothing else can. And to add even more intrigue, some stories suggest this coin might have had a dramatic die clash, where the die struck each other without a planchette in between, leaving impressions of the opposite side's design embedded into the coin, creating ghostly images that fascinate collectors. And others claim it may have had a dramatic cud, where a piece of the die broke off, leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin surface. And such features are highly sought after, especially when paired with other visible errors. And the fact that this penny has been described as a once-in-a-lifetime find only fuels the imagination further, because when you hear of coins reaching these kinds of valuations, you realize that the market is not just about the metal content or the face value, but about history, uniqueness, and the story behind the coin. And every collector knows that the story is just as important as the object itself. So the 1996 D penny worth $38 million is not only valuable because of its physical errors but also because of the narrative it carries, a narrative of mint mistakes, survival against the odds, discovery, and the frenzy of collectors competing to own it. And this narrative transforms it from a 1-cent coin into a cultural artifact, a symbol of how even the smallest objects can hold immense value when circumstances align. And as we consider these possibilities, we are reminded that the world of coin collecting is full of surprises, because coins are not just money, they are miniature works of art, pieces of history, and in rare cases, priceless treasures. And while most of us may never stumble upon a $38 million penny, the very idea keeps the passion alive, and it proves that sometimes the most valuable things are hiding in plain sight, waiting to be recognized, cherished, and celebrated.